Welcome back to the channel, fam. We back at it again. We're going to continue in this episode working on our LS swap Skylark here. This is a 1964 Skylark. We went ahead in the last few videos put in the LM7 5.3 liter LS engine as well as 4L60E transmission. If you haven't checked out those videos, go ahead and check those videos out after this one. For now, we're going to go ahead and continue working on this engine build. If you've been following along, you know we had some clearance issues here with the power steering pump running into the steering rack. So we went ahead and removed the alternator, power steering pump, and the bracket in order to get our engine set. But now it's time to put those items back in. So we're going to be remounting the power steering pump and alternator in a higher location with a relocation kit from ICT. So we're going to go ahead and check out this ICT kit. So we'll take you over here on the bench and we'll start unboxing it and see what we got. Alright fam, so we're back here on our bench. We have our power steering pump, we have our alternator, and we have this big bulky bracket here, which we are going to eliminate. Again, the power steering pump ran into our power steering gearbox, so we're going to go ahead and reconfigure it, putting it in a high mount location. In order to do that, we're going to go ahead and use the ICT Relocation kit. This is a high mount kit from ICT. We'll go ahead and get this unboxed here now. Comes with some nice colorful instructions. So it's ICT Billet Relocation kit for the truck power steering pump and alternator. So that's nice. Looks like some good, well put together instructions. So we like that. Let's go ahead and see what else is in the box. We got a nice hardware kit here. Looks like spacers for different configurations perhaps, but it's all packaged well. This one looks to be a power steering bracket by the shape of it. Again, it's in a billet aluminum, which is quite nice, although it's not polished, so you want to make a note that it's not a fully polished surface, so it's not a mirror finish. It's kind of a dull semi-polished aluminum, but it does have the engraving ICT there on the bracket, so that looks pretty cool. We do like that. Also, let's look what else they have here. There's 3 different bags here. There's also this bag here which looks like it's going to be the alternator bracket. Let me go ahead and take one of them out. Again, not fully polished, a semi-polished surface. And it does say ICT again engraved in there. So that's nice, and it has its own instructions as well. This alternator bracket also comes with a turnbuckle for adjusting, so I don't think we're going to use a tensioner. So it also has different spacers here too for different configurations and a hardware kit as well. And I'm going to stress it now that you want to open these bags separately typically so you don't mix the hardware up. Do one at a time. That would be my suggestion if you're ever doing any kits like this, to only open one bag at a time so you don't get mixed up with your hardware. So we'll move on. We have another bag here, which is a total surprise to me. This one has 2 spacers and 4 gaskets. At first glance it looks like maybe a water pump spacer. I'm really hoping it's not. I don't want my water pump to move forward. And then also, if you're moving the water pump forward, you're going to have a problem with your belt alignment. So I'm not sure how we're going to address that. I'm not going to speculate, however. I don't know what this part is until I start putting it together and looking at the instructions. But at first glance, it looks like a water pump spacer. But what we're going to do is go ahead and jump right into it now, start installing this and see exactly how it lays out. And then I'll give you my opinion on whether I like it or not. Let's go ahead and jump over to the engine and get this thing installed so we can see how it looks. Alright fam, so I know I said I was going to go ahead and go to the engine and start putting this together. However, I wanted to stop real quick and show you guys a little something just to give you a heads up. In order to get this on, you're going to have to pull this pulley off of the power steering pump to access these 3 15mm bolts back here behind, again, this pulley here. So in order to do that, you're going to have a puller. So it's going to be something similar to this here. You would put it on the power steering pulley. You would have a press here, and it would press it off of this shaft, popping this pulley off of the pump itself. So once you have that off, again, you can hit these 15mm bolts up to get the pump off of this bracket. This bracket will no longer need. So let's go ahead and jump over to engine now, this time for real, and we'll start throwing this together. All right, fam, so we're going to start with the power steering pump. We got the bracket that does not say ICT. Obviously, the one that says ICT is going to go on the front. So we're going to start with the bracket that does not say ICT. You'll see some conical shaped bolt holes here to fit these, again, conical shaped head 10mm bolts. They're going to sit flush here. So those are the ones we're going to start with. I like to use blue Loctite. It doesn't really call it out, but I'm going to use blue Loctite here so that way these things don't walk themselves free. And I'm going to start installing this here on this left head. So when you install these, you're going to install them here with these smaller washers or the thinner washers in there. So you take the thinnest washer and you're going to put them on these bolts. And you're supposed to put them in 4 different positions. Only 2 of them will have bolts, so it'll be hard to hold the top ones in place. I suggest putting those in later. What I'm going to use is I'm going to use some of these bolts here just to hold these washers in place until everything tightens up. Again, you're using 4 of the smallest washers here, or spacers I should call them, to space out that bracket. So we're going to run these in with the impact. And now I'm going to go hand tighten them just so I can make sure they are good and tight. Alright. Next we're going to grab the pump here, and on the back there's 2 studs. We're going to grab 2 of these supplied nuts, and then we're going to go ahead and mount it on this bracket. Alright, now we're going to grab the top plate here, and this bracket is the one that says ICT. We're going to go ahead and mount that to the pump there. We need to put these spacers in, so make sure you have the spacers, and these shorter are medium-sized spacers, the long ones and the mediums. We're going to use both. So now that we have those washers pressed up against the head there, they shouldn't fall out of place. I'm going to put the bolt through the bracket, add my sleeves. So there's a spacer sleeve there, and I'm just going to loosely put it in place just so it stays where I need it while I mount the rest of these up. So just get the thread started there, don't tighten them up. And the last 2 bolts, again, some Loctite. These are the shortest ones. These will go in the 2 remaining holes. So far, pretty simple. Alright, and we're going to tighten all these up. Alright, now that we have the power steering pump mounted on the new brackets, it's time to go ahead and put the pulley back on. So for that, we're going to need our tool. This is a specialty tool to press the pulley back on to the shaft of the power steering pump. Now, however, you could get away with using a standard bolt. I don't know the size and pitch of the bolt, but you can get just a regular bolt with a nut and then a washer. This one has a ball bearing on the front to help press it on so it doesn't bind up. But you could use a regular bolt that fits the power steering pump shaft. and then a nut with a washer to force this on as well. So that's another trick. But I happen to have the tool, so we're going to use the tool. You just thread it onto the shaft. Go on quite a ways so you get a good bite on it. You don't want to pull the threads out of the shaft. Alright, so we're just going to go ahead and tighten this up. Tightening this up will force the pulley back onto the shaft. Alright, once it's seated back in, we can go ahead and remove our press. I'm going to have to loosen this up here though. Alright, and so that one is done. Now we're going to move over to putting in the alternator. Alright, for the alternator, again, we're starting with a bracket that doesn't say ICT on it. It has more or less a part number or something stamped in it. But again, the one without ICT on it. So we're going to go ahead and install this one on the head. Hopefully I'm not blocking you with my big head. But we're going to install it using a 225mm and a 30mm Allen head style bolt. It's going to have a tapered bolt head. So we're going to go ahead and put some blue Loctite on this as well. Alright, now we have our blue Loctite on. We're going to go ahead and line this up with the holes on the head. The 30mm is going to go at the bottom. And then the 225s will be the two top bolts here. So go ahead and put those in. Alright, next we got to take the tensioner off because we won't be using this tensioner. We're going to go to a turnbuckle style tensioner on the alternator. So we're going to take our 10mm and zap this factory tensioner out. There's 3 bolts. Alright guys, now that we got the water pump bolts out, we're going to install the bracket that says ICT. So this is the foremost bracket. And we're going to utilize these 3 holes, installing the bolts through the existing water pump bolts, the ones we just removed. And we're going to use these shims here to shim it out. So I'm going to start putting these bolts in here, the water pump. Again, using the shims. I believe these were the inch and just under a half, inch 0.4 spacers. So we're going to get those put in just hand tight for now. You can make sure everything looks like it's aligning first before we fully commit to it. And then we have this 2.3 inch spacer with, I believe this is a 13mm bolt. That's going to go up here in the top bolt for the tensioner, which we just removed. So we're going to tighten all those up. Alright guys, so before we go ahead and tighten these 4 bolts we just put in the front of the water pump here, I'm going to put the alternator in because I don't want to have to fight it, clamp together. So I'm going to put it in while this is loose. We got a long 10mm bolt, I don't know how long. And then we have a spacer approximately 2.3 inches, I believe. So the pivot bolt here on the alternator, We're going to line that up and get it in place. Put this washer, or spacer, I should say, and then thread it through that rear bracket. Again, hand tighten everything first, so everything's there. I think I'm going to go ahead and tighten it now before I put the turnbuckle assembly together. Alright, so I'll leave this one. I'll leave that one a hair loose so we can pivot the alternator. For the turnbuckle, we have one of these conical shaped bolts. It's again a 10mm Allen. So we're going to put it through the front lower part of the bracket. There's a spacer, approximately 3/4 inch spacer that goes behind it. A little hard to get in here, but we'll make it work. And that's going to throw a thread right in to the water pump. So we're going to go ahead and tighten that one up as well. Alright fam, so we got a 10mm bolt and nut here. We're going to use this in the turnbuckle on this bottom bolt hole. And we're going to go ahead and tighten this up now, and then we can adjust our belt here on this turnbuckle, moving the alternator in and out in order to get our belt tension. That's why we don't need the tensioner anymore. Alright fam, so we got everything installed. The alternator has been relocated over here to the passenger side of the engine. The power steering pump is on the driver's side, but in a higher location. That allowed for more clearance here on this gearbox. As you remember, if you've been following along, when we first put the engine in, this pulley was actually sitting on top of the gearbox. So that problem is resolved. Looks like we have about 3 inches clearance here now, so everything's good. I have to say, after installing it, I do like the bracketry. The bracketry is very strong, very stout system. It came with all the hardware needed to get it installed. There were no issues in installing it whatsoever, as you can see from the video. So I definitely recommend it if you need to relocate these 2 items on your engine, especially if you have the truck block, because I believe this was specific to the truck engine. With that being said, the only couple things that I could see that is worth noting that may be an issue would be here where the radiator hose mounts on the water pump. This neck is rather close to the alternator. Again, we're adjusted all the way in on our turnbuckle. So if this is our pivot point, it would theoretically close this gap even more once adjusted. If you have to adjust out any, this gap will actually get smaller. So keep that in mind. Currently got about 3/8 of an inch here. Maybe a 1/2 inch if we're lucky. I'm not going to measure it, but it is definitely very close. I can't even get a finger through. So keep that in mind. Another thing worth noting is the new location for the power steering pump would be an issue if you're planning on doing some reversed headers, flipped upside down, and front exit on your exhaust. So like that would be in a turbo situation if you were building out a turbo kit. I'll give you an example. We have the Camaro over here. And in this case, we have our headers that are flipped over and backwards facing forward to allow for us to connect to our turbo. So if this was the case for your build, that power steering pump being right here would be an issue. So we'll go back and take a look at the Skylark's engine. And just keep in mind where this exhaust exits here next to that head and valve cover. So we'll take a look over here. So in this case, if it were to exit here along this valve cover, it would run right into the reservoir on this power steering pump. So keep that in mind if you're doing a turbo build. If you haven't picked up on it already, is that I'm considering doing a turbo build on the Skylark. I know I've said in several videos already that I was going to go naturally aspirated and keep everything pretty much stock with the engine, which is still the case for the bottom end. All the internals I'm not touching. But the more and more I build this car, the more I want to just put some extra touches on it. So I'm considering doing a twin turbo setup here. Despite where the power steering pump landed, I'll work around that. But let me know in the comments if you think I should go twin turbo on the Skylark. I do have a single turbo on the Camaro. It's a big single turbo, I think 88 millimeter. But I'll probably go two smaller turbos if I were to do a twin turbo setup here on the Skylark. But let me know in the comments below if you think that's the route I should take. But let's go and continue with this video. The last thing we need to do to finish out the video is to obviously put the belt on. So we're going to put the belt on and check its fitment and clearances. So let's go ahead and jump to that now. All right, so we have the belt here, and the reason why I'm showing you this information is because it was a little difficult for me to track down the actual belt that would fit it. I went to the store a couple times on this, so I'm going to save you guys the time and show you what belt I'm using. So this is a O'Reilly's part number. It's a Master Pro belt. K060695 is the belt number. They also have another number here, 6K695. So if you're ever looking for the serpentine belt for this configuration, this would be it here. Now that's a 13/16 belt with a 70-inch overall circumference. So go ahead and get a 70-inch belt with 6 ribs, 13/16 width. So that's the belt you'll need. We'll go ahead and install this belt now and see how it fits. Now it is a tight fit, I must say, so this is definitely a snug fit so far. And I do have the tension on the alternator all the way adjusted down, so it could probably be a 70 1/4 or 70 1/2 inch belt even. But the 70 seems to work. It just didn't leave you a lot of wiggle room to get it put on, considering I'm maxed out on my lower adjustment here. Now I'm going to adjust it up to put a little more tension on it, and that'll wrap it up. Alright, so we're going to use the turnbuckle here to go ahead and adjust the tension, put a little more tension on this belt. So this is going to be a 15 millimeter wrench for the turnbuckle and a 13 millimeter wrench for the jam nuts. Now you don't want to go too tight on the tension of your belt because it'll wear out the bearings in your alternator and also in the power steering pump as well as the water pump. So you could damage the bearings in any of these pulleys if you put too much tension on this belt. So it's going to be good right there. You want enough tension that you could still flip it around on its side here, but you could feel a definite tension to it. So that'll be good there. I'm going to lock it in. Again, 13 millimeter wrench on these jam nuts. Also, these brackets that I mentioned earlier, I do still believe they're water pump spacers with the extended bolts. However, we did not use them. I don't see a reason for them. The only thing I could really think of is if you had a different water pump. Let's say you had the LS1 water pump, or something that came off of a car versus a truck. Maybe you had to space it out for belt alignment. Again, I'm just speculating. That's what this is for, but we're not going to use it. Everything's lined up perfect, so no need for these spacers. Just wanted to let you guys know that we did not use this part. So that would be the third bag in the box. So we're gonna throw this on the parts shelf over there because you know, if you follow along, we keep a lot of stuff on the parts shelf in case we run into something down the road where we may need it. So this will go on the parts shelf for maybe future use, who knows. All right, so let's get back over here and take a look at this belt fitment. So the belt looks like it fits well. We got plenty of gap here between the brackets on this alternator and the belt. No rubbing issues there. We come over this side, thermostat housing has plenty of clearance. No issues there. All right, water pump fits as normal. Now the power steering pump, again, no issues here. It's a little close to the gearbox. However, there's about an inch clearance. There's no way this belt's going to come in contact with that gearbox. So, no issues there as well. And if we come over to the side and take a look, you can see the alignment on the pulleys came out just perfect. It's perfectly aligned. So, I have to say it's a really good kit. It's good fitment, good hardware. I, again, would definitely recommend it if you're looking to relocate these items on your LS, especially the truck motor, because this I think was intended just for the truck motor. I'll leave the part number in the description below, so go ahead and check that out if you're interested. I did find it on Amazon. All right, so that's gonna wrap it up for the relocation kit from ICT. But I want to take this time now to say we've been growing really fast lately. We got a lot of new subscribers. Unfortunately, I don't get to see who you are in most cases unless you comment. So if you're new to the channel and you subscribed or you just like watching my videos, go ahead and leave a comment below so I know who you are. But in this video, I'm going to acknowledge some of the people that have left comments. I'm going to start with Chevy's R Us. I see you. Thank you for tapping into the channel, my boy. I appreciate your support. Also, got some people from Texas I want to give a shout out to. TK Speed Shop recently went ahead and subscribed to the channel and showing a lot of love. I see you, my boy. Thank you for showing the support. Also from Texas, I want to give a shout out to Fiero Boy 86. He's been tapped into the channel since the very beginning, so he's one of the early subscribers. I see you. I appreciate your support. And from overseas, we got Diego. Diego from Spain, thank you for tapping in the channel. I do appreciate your support, family. Also from Sweden, we got a new subscriber from Sweden. Don't know your name, but I appreciate you tapping in the channel. Make sure to turn everybody on overseas to the channel so that way we can grow our international subscriber base. All right, and one last mention. The latest subscriber, Jack Perry. Thank you for leaving a comment. I do appreciate you tapping into the channel. I'm gonna respond to your comment right after I get off this camera. But I do appreciate you tapping in and thank you for the kind words. For the rest of you, I appreciate each and every one of you that watch my video. I truly, truly, truly appreciate the support. And if you like what you saw today, go ahead and smash that like button. And if you haven't already, go ahead and hit that subscribe button and hit that notification bell to be notified of my next episode because I drop bangers weekly. And until next time, stay good, family. Peace.